where in this podcast, we explore the connection between emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence. My name is Vanessa Pizzuto, and today I'm really excited. I have a very different kind of guest. He's not a theologian, and I'm grateful to all the theologians who were guests in this show. But today I am talking to Deb Deana. She is a clinician. She specializes in Polivagal Theory. And if you saw that video on TikTok that went viral about glimmers, she's the one who came up with the concept of glimmers. Let's dive in. Hi, Deb. It's such a pleasure, such an honor to have a conversation with you today. Thank you for saying yes.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And as you know, I want to talk about glimmers, and many people encounter this maybe for the first time via a video on TikTok, which went viral. I had the privilege also to read one of your books, Anchored, but for those who hadn't, I thought it would be good if we start with, I know this is impossible, but kind of a summary of what is polyvagal theory, and then we jump onto glimmers, if you're okay with that.
Sure, yes. Yeah, so polyvagal theory is Steve Porges's beautiful identification of how the nervous system works. And so I like to think it helps us understand how we're human. And it has three basic organizing principles that we can briefly touch on so people get an idea of that. The first is neuroception, which is Steve's word for how the nervous system listens and takes in information and decides in the moment, is it safe or unsafe? And so I love that word, neuroception, because it's the nervous system does connect with your cortex in the brain, but it starts work below the level of the cortex. So neuroception is without benefit of the thinking parts of your brain. And it uses simply three streams of awareness: an inside pathway, so it's listening inside your body; an outside pathway, it listens to the environment around you; and a between pathway, so it's listening between nervous systems. So your nervous system and mine are having this conversation this morning, or my morning, your afternoon,
Yes.
as we're here together. That's that lovely between pathway.
Yeah.
And when the cues of safety or the welcome that you feel outweigh the cues of danger or the warnings that you receive, then we move into a place on the next principle, the hierarchy, called ventral vagal. And ventral is the place our nervous system takes us when we feel safe enough to move forward, to engage, to meet the world in some organized fashion. And ventral is I think, where our nervous system longs to be, because it's the place of well-being. And I think it inherently knows how to get there. But for some of us, we may have not traveled that path recently, or perhaps it's a path we haven't traveled very much in our life. But what I like people to know is that path exists for everybody. Ventral lives inside everybody's biology. And when we get to glimmers are a way to sort of bring that alive.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I mentioned that I came across your work via your book is because I had a surgery, and I had to, getting back from surgery and dealing with the pain and the pressure of the doctors to get ready and be good in like 3 seconds. So I was kind of looking for a way to be kinder to my body. And what you just said is just so nice. It's true. That path is there. It's just that many of us are not used to it. And in your book, and often what you just described is talked about as a CCTV camera, kind of like going, is it safe? Is it not? And I think that's really a good example, a good illustration. And your nervous system is constantly checking. Good. So we have the basics. We have the absolute basics.
Just ventral is the glimmer place. I just wanted to briefly mention that outside of ventral, the other two places that Steve identified are our survival places, which are equally important, and the places where the world. And I'm a trauma therapist, so we focus on the triggers that take us to fight and flight, which everybody understands, and then the one that Steve also identified, the collapse shutdown. right? And so, we spend a lot of time working with those because they disrupt our life.
Yeah.
And the thing that we need to remember is that in order to truly thrive and experience well-being, we do have to work with all those triggers. We have to reduce them, resolve them, understand them, integrate them in some way, and we have to actively experience the cues of safety, which are the glimmers. If we do
Yeah.
without the other, we can't fully experience well-being.
Ah, that's fantastic and such a great segue. So tell me a bit more about glimmers. What are
Yeah.
they?
Oh, so glimmers are these micro moments of that place of ventral, a micro moment of feeling okay or joyful or happy or at ease or relaxed. There's a whole flavor of glimmers that can emerge for people. And they are ordinary. They are all around us, but we miss them, right?
Mm.
We don't know to look for them, for one thing. And when we're in a survival moment, they're really hard to find. So what I encourage people to do is we have to first identify, how do you know you've bumped into a glimmer? And then how do we, begin to make a practice of looking for them? Because what I discovered early on in my work with clients was when they found their first glimmer, both their brain and their biology, so brain and nervous system, began to look for more because
Mm.
it's an experience that feels nourishing, and it's a
Ah.
tiny moment, so it's easy to reach for, right? We have all these big practices which are so hard to build into our life or even to be able to have the energy to do. But a glimmer is like, oh, tiny. I can
Mm.
reach for that. Oh, there's a glimmer. There's a glimmer, right? So
A drop of connection.
yes,
Yeah.
a drop, this tiny drop, yes, which again, when I explain to my clients, and I love people to understand, it is the tiny drops that begin to shape your nervous system towards connection and
Mm.
rewrite those protective pathways.
Yeah.
It's
And
not the great big huge thing, it's the tiny moments that
mm,
accumulate and begin to make the change.
I would love for you to tell me a bit more about that because I was talking to a friend who's also a therapist, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to talk to her." And she said to me, "Oh, I would love to know the biochemistry behind that moment of finding a glimmer and how what you're saying,
Yeah.
starts to rewrite that."
Yeah, it's this lovely moment of ventral, and ventral is the place where our system is in balance, right? So sympathetic and dorsal are in the background, and sympathetic's everyday role is to bring us energy, and dorsal's everyday role is to regulate our digestion. So when ventral is managing the system, those things work in the background. And a glimmer, every time we have a glimmer moment, we have a moment, tiny moment of that relief from survival energy and entrance into a moment of okayness, right? And it simply can be a moment of okayness. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Sometimes it is. Sometimes, it's magic. I wrote a couple of years ago about a hummingbird that kept coming to my, deck door and looking at me. And the other day he appeared again, or a hummingbird appeared. I'm thinking it's the same one. That's okay. And that was a magical moment. So, oh my gosh, magic. When other moments are simply, ah, there was a moment that just felt easeful, right? A tiny moment. So lots of flavors. And, the ventral system is associated with all sorts of neurochemicals. And, when we have a moment of connection, we feel some of that oxytocin, flooding our system. So that's one of the things. It's also an absence of the cortisol and adrenaline that's
Mm.
associated with the survival state of fight and flight. So it's a whole combination of things. And again, this is an autonomic nervous system. It's a system. All the parts are speaking to each other all the time. So it's
Yeah.
probably more complicated than that, but I like the fact that, a glimmer moment just brings alive this feeling, this embodied experience.
Mhm.
It's not up here. It's not my brain saying, oh, there's a, right? It's my body saying, oh, there's a, and then my brain adds the
So
information
how
to.
do I know? How do I know? Yeah, I have encountered a glimmer. In which way does my, for those of us who are developing that somatic language, right? How
Right,
does my body say to me, yeah, this
right.
is a glimmer?
And that is the question that we explore. Every person has a different way. And for some people, it's a top down rather than a bottom up first, right? It may be that your attention goes somewhere and you think, oh, glimmer, or
Mm.
oh, hummingbird. So it comes in this way and then you feel it go down. And for other people, there's this moment when you feel a warmth or a softening or a energy that
Yeah.
opens, and then it comes up and your brain says glimmer, hummingbird. It doesn't matter which way it goes, right? And people have a route they follow more often. Some people go either way. And so the first step in glimmering, so to speak, is to see, how do you know you've bumped into a glimmer? Right. And for me, it's interesting. I often just stopped for a moment, just a ooh, stop, right? And
Mm.
a look, and then there's this sort of cognitive glimmer with feeling that all comes together. So have you experienced a glimmer?
Oh, yes.
So how do you know you've bumped into a glimmer?
Well, I had been going through a week of a lot of hard work, and I finally managed to schedule some time for writing, which always kind of brings me to this place of peace and creativity. And I was writing, and to be fair, at the beginning I was a bit afraid because I thought, what if I haven't faced a blank page in so long? What happens if nothing comes? And there was like some sort of muscle memory kicking in and my whole body relaxed. And then at that time, the sun started shining through the window. And
Oh,
it was like, that
yeah,
there's this release, this sense of warm and I don't know, like being at home in your
yes.
own body, comfortable in your own skin, sort of thing.
I love it. What a gorgeous glimmer. And as you are sharing that, I am receiving it and experiencing it, right?
Yeah.
Because I've had an experience of sun. I've had the blank page. So my nervous system goes, oh, I know that feeling. So that's so
Mm,
lovely. And so when we share our glimmers,
yeah.
they come alive for you again, but they come alive for the person you're sharing with as well, which is, one of the steps of, glimmering, if we're calling that. You see, you stop, you appreciate. And then you
Mm.
figure out, how do I share? Right. I love, you find a glimmer buddy or a glimmer group, or you have a way that you send an emoji or whatever, because that's the co-regulating piece. That's the connection that we all humans long for and need,
Yeah.
right? On a biological level even. And so as you do that, it brings that piece in. Yeah. Yeah. So, and once you found it,
Yeah.
then you can begin to look for more, right? You
Mm.
have the first experience like, ooh, yes, that feels good. And they appear routinely, right? They're all around us. So, we can be on the lookout for them, which helps. They they appear sometimes in predictable places, like we have what I call glimmer environments,
Okay.
which may be, for me, the ocean is a glimmer environment.
The mountains. Yeah.
Mountains for you, when you go there, you will
Oh,
find a glimmer.
yeah.
So predictable, right? And we want to remember we have predictable glimmers, predictable places that will appear. First thing in the morning, I usually get a glimmer because I love the early morning. I actually woke up in the middle of the night and there was a star right outside my window. Glimmer moment, right? They're all over. But the other thing is to look for the unpredictable ones, right? Like I didn't know when I woke up last night to be a star outside my window. Unpredictable, right? It just happened. So
Mm.
beach is predictable, star in the night was unpredictable. It's all the different ways we can begin to feel them, find them, savor them,
Yeah.
right? And
And
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I'm just thinking that perhaps I want you to share some other examples because we mentioned perceptions, but maybe like seeing something that maybe is also like a smell,
Absolutely.
or they can
Yeah,
come in many
all of your
shapes.
senses, all any shape or size. Yes, you're touching your pet out in the world
Mm.
and someone just smiles, right?
Yeah.
Seeing somebody with a bright colored, funky hat on. I mean,
You go
all
like,
the different,
kudos.
exactly. I want to do that too, right? There's that, music
Oh yeah,
is
music.
glimmer, seeing a piece of art somewhere,
Yeah.
a smell, yes, a taste, right? A certain touch. They're all moments, time, and again, a glimmer is a micro moment. Fleeting spark of this ventral energy. So it can come in all of those forms. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
talk about, having this intention. I think it's kind of like going glimmer hunting. I'm gonna go glimmer hunting today.
Yeah, well, yes, and there's a yes and there, because
Yeah.
when you write an intention, when you're working with the nervous system has to feel that that intention is an invitation, not a demand.
Oh
So when
yeah.
you said I'm going glimmer hunting, my nervous system said I'm not. Nope,
No,
that's
that's not the
you.
right word. Yeah, I
No,
got
for
you.
me.
Yeah,
It could be
yeah,
for you, but it's not for me. And that's the beauty of working with the
yeah,
nervous system, is every nervous system will say yes or no to a word, to an experience, right? So for
yeah.
me, and I invite people to write their glimmer intention and then notice, does it feel spacious enough
Right.
for your nervous system to move into? And the one I have been using for a long time now is, I'm open to finding the glimmers that appear on my path today. So I'm not glimmer hunting, but I'm open to finding them, the
Right.
ones that appear with that real belief that they will appear. So that for me is an intention that
Right.
feels inviting enough to do
So,
it.
so maybe there isn't a sense of, oh, I failed, or maybe which is interesting, and kind of leads me a little bit into what I wanted to ask you, because I grew up in a beautiful Christian community with good intentions, but now as a grown up, I can see that some of the things, the way they were taught, were not helpful,
Mm.
and so from that lens, and please understand what I'm saying, from that lens, I might read about glimmers and go, great, another person telling me to count my blessings, which is a
Exactly.
good thing, don't get me wrong. But what about the days when I'm not feeling like that? What about the days when I can't see them? What about the days what if I'm not even good at finding glimmers? And so this is why I really wanted to talk to you
Yeah.
about toxic
Yeah.
positivity and glimmers and how they're different.
Yes, and that's beautiful. I'm so glad. And I always talk about the both and of triggers and glimmers. Glimmers do not take care of triggers in any way. Glimmers do not replace, resolve a trigger. And they are, when I'm inviting people to find glimmers, it's not because I don't want them to work with their triggers, feel their triggers, feel the dysregulation, or for me to hear it with them and help them work with it. What I'm telling people is that your nervous system is magnificently able to hold all of the trauma and experience these micro moments of okayness. And in fact, in order to go be with the trauma and work with it, we have to have enough of a foothold in ventral so that we don't get hijacked back into it, right? And that's what happens, often in the trauma world, is that there's a turning toward the trauma and the person relives it rather than remembers it, right? Glimmers begin to build the foundation so you can go to safely the trauma memories that are held in sympathetic and dorsal. They don't live in ventral, they're held in survival states. You can go to them, be with them, work with them, be informed by them, learn from them safely. And so, very careful to tell people this is not an instead of, and this
Right.
does not do anything. So for you, the count your blessings feels very um, not right for you,
Yeah,
because
that's the
when
phrase that doesn't
yeah,
sound right for me. I'm like,
yeah,
I know what you
yeah,
mean, but no.
yeah, yeah. So yes, we don't count our blessings. Really, what we're doing is we're just noticing the glimmers
Mm.
that are around us and are available for us to touch into.
Oh yeah,
Which
that's
is why when you went
beautiful.
glimmer hunting, it was like, maybe not,
Not
because
not
it's
not in love with that phrase.
yeah,
Yeah.
but knowing that they are there because they are there. right? Nature is there, music is there, smiles are there, right? And if I can just touch in for a moment, then it's, oh, both and the nervous system really needs both and.
Yeah.
Does it help?
Yeah,
Does
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking what you are talking about is so balanced. It's not at all spiritual bypassing. It is not, oh, we're going to pretend that we are okay all the time and slap a smile on our faces. Is both and. Is yes, there are moments where my nervous system experiences sadness, but my nervous system is also quite capable of seeing glimmers, and I'm going to pay attention to those as well. I love that.
And I think to know that that's the biologically wired in experience, right? That it's there waiting. It is in your system. And so for, even my most trauma saturated sessions with clients, we would also, usually find this tiny moment of a glimmer together, right? Whether it was we happened to see a bird out the window, or we had a moment of a shared smile or something, and just naming that with my client was important. Oh, that felt like a glimmer, right? Just to bring it into awareness, because again, we pass right by them without noticing. And when we actually notice them, bring them into explicit awareness, they land in our system differently.
I like that phrase. They land differently, like they leave a more clear print for us to see. Oh, I like that. I like that very much. I'm going to write that down later so I remember it.
Good.
Do you write them down, or do you keep some sort of record of them?
I encourage people to find a way to mark those moments, remember their glimmers, and whether it's an end of the day reflection because you don't have time to stop during the day, or whether you jot something in your phone, seems to be what people do nowadays, in their phone, or take a picture, and post it somewhere. I will tell you, I turned 70 this year, and my two daughters had all my family and a couple of my dear friends come to surprise me and be with me, and they created journals, little journals, and on the front it says "Collecting Glimmers." It's the sweetest thing. So all of these people, we all have a Collecting Glimmers journal that we keep, and then we share what we've found. So for me, that was just a lovely way of
That's a beautiful practice. That's a beautiful practice. Yeah, I'm thinking about going back to my surgery and kind of like learning to connect with the body. This awareness, which is needed to like pay attention to those glimmers and see how they sit with us. I find that sometimes what happens is I've been so used to living from the neck up that it is kind of like building an awareness even of the presence of my body and my embodiment as a human being. And so I wonder what kind of practices or what kind of things you could suggest for people who are slowly, walking into this relationship of love with our bodies and with our nervous systems.
And interesting, because yes, many of us live from the neck up and are trying to remember we do have a body, right? In my work with trauma survivors, the word body is such a challenging word. So I talk about nervous system rather than body, which is one way to begin to move in, because you all have a heart, we have lungs, we have digestive system, we have systems, right? And so how does a glimmer land in your system? It's different than where do you feel it in your body, right? Where do you feel it in your body may be down the road. How does it land? How does your nervous system tell you you just encountered a glimmer? It's a different question than how does your body tell you? So that's where I'd like people to start, and say, "Ooh, so like how does my ventral system give me a message?" Ooh, there it was. And sometimes it is, a thought, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes it's just, ooh, your attention goes there, and that's great. And sooner or later, it's going to find its way into embodiment. But we don't need to start there when that's a challenging place to be.
All right. Oh, that's good.
Right,
That's
because
good.
as soon as you push yourself, I have to locate it in my body, then you move to the survival state. Should, have to are demands again that bring you into survival and out of the experience of a glimmer, right?
Yeah.
So you
Wow.
welcome it in whatever way it lands for you, right?
Yeah.
Whatever way. You know, people who take a picture, you know, are grabbing a glimmer in a certain way. Right? Other people write something. I love words. You love words. You know, I usually write something. That's my way of grabbing a glimmer or holding on to it. Right? We all have our own way, and there again, what one of my lines that I use whenever I'm teaching is, "There's no right way or wrong way. There's just the way of your nervous system," and that's what we want to remember. Right? So you find your way to notice a glimmer, and your way to remember a glimmer, and that's the right way for you.
100%. Ah, 100%. Thank you. I'm just aware of the time and I don't want to take more than I said I would. So I wonder whether you want to share one last thought and or where can people find more about polyvagal theory? Because for many of us, this was like an avenue into polyvagal theory.
Sure. Yeah. So my website is rhythmofregulation.com, and there are lots of resources there that people can check into. We're going to release some resources for curious humans, not just clinicians, but curious humans in the next couple of months. So that will be fun. And then I think the thing I'd like to say, and I know it sounds, it sometimes sounds silly when I say it. However, I will say it anyway. I think as we all begin to find glimmers and our systems begin to take them in and move a bit more towards feeling safe in connection, that ripples out into the world. And I like to think of it as a way that the world itself can begin to feel in a global way more safe, more able to come into connection. So the tiniest moments can create this big change over time.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
Thank you for being part of this conversation with Deb Deana. If you want more information or for show notes, visit my website. I'll see you next time.